Kia Hemios 521 private room. Today is 25 May 2021. We had this new model as war presentation of risk report South America and West and sometimes global. We will have observation, take notes and have a presentation. We will avoid the use of social network or something that sometimes I don't like but I have to use because we have a violation as privacy violation as a problem in Brazil and other situations observed and which has a causal relation presented as a charge. This causal relation can be used as support for a criminal accusation, considering that corruption is a crime. The causal relation to have the right as compensation is a violation. This violation, in a very first moment, impact my civil rights, my basic guarantees, but sometimes having the flow or the level as transference of communication at the World Wide Web as something like this. Then you create a disruptive event on it. Sometimes you cut the light to have the access and replace the frequency. That will be something like this. And then you are having the boxing data as interval. For instance, if I'm here in Rio de Janeiro living in my neighborhood, which is for instance Alto da Boa Vista, and then you have the collective data here as this disruptive event on Grajaú, São Cristóvão, Santa Teresa, Zona Sul, Tijuca, and others. Of course, that each one of those areas have a circuit as collective data, and you do this to try to hide yourself, have scattering, I would say, or something like this to confuse the track activity. But of course, that the integration of this kind of activity will give you the entire information that you need. For instance, when you do this and have the collective data at my local spot using the Tijuca, and you got this website that I make my purchase or something like this, for instance, the eBay, and then you collected my data as login, access code, then my bank account, and then you use both to have a purchase on Amazon, and then you got tracked, since that time, since you did this, all those periods. But sometimes this happen when I'm transferring, for instance, a critical report for the FBI or for the NATO, for the OECD as about tax crime, and you did this. And it's the development, for instance, with the IBM USA or whatever. You committed industrial crime, you committed warfare crime from my privacy violation, and I have the right as compensation. Interest at the research that was finished 33 trillion estimative, considering all period, all effort made, all advices since from the very first kickoff, with no expectation and no value assigned on it. But you continue it, you insist, you have the systematical increasement behavior. For instance, when I make the purchase at the website as a transference from the US postal system, having the income in Brazilian system as postal system, you open my item, you use my thing, even if it was a user thing or a user code or something like this, cut the outfit that I had bought, or just to destroy, to create a perception that you are strong. Indeed you are. You are so strong and so rich that you have a consequence and a causal consequence according with the quality that you exposed during all those this period, which is a strong and huge player against the citizen, against the individual. And you will suffer the charge as a big player that you are, 33 trillion, causal relation on it as compensation, which is a financial factor in as expectation, researching the credit and protecting this because indeed exist, you know, and you will pay. And you will pay everything because you are big, you know, you are so strong against the citizen, against the individuals, that at the major scenario you have no problem to keep the continuity of your greatness country of the future and peers linked with, especially at that public budget. And cybercrime was considered in the bottom of the organized crime by nature, by the Interpol. And the organized crime is based on linkage and association as family and blood ties that you have. But on present time you have the nepotism in the same way. Consider the success of the law enforcement that puts some criminals down and they put others to replace the system that will continue and have no relation with the variables inside. This system, criminal system, will maybe eliminate of some of those variables, put them out, offer them as an asset for the international law enforcement to try to continue. And it doesn't mean that we'll have success on it. We will have the continuity of the risk report on a new social activity or something like this, because the previous blog can't have no blogs anymore, kind of a fillet, the share that I have to present the risk report as a philanthropic or something by goodwill at the website. But we will try to move and keep the move and keep the pace, considering the charge and the big interest that we have at this accusation. Because the transnational organized crime indeed is a threat for everybody, for anyone, anywhere and everywhere, putting in risk your regular company, your regular business, by the financial choke that you suffer, by the need as investment that will be created, and by the willing dealing scams that you will offer the money that you doesn't need, but now you are unfortunately have this as a need. And this money is a dead money as consequence of the illicit transference from public budget. This happening in other areas, and the companies have this, and this is used little by little as suppression and oppression, taking advantage of the moment, like the COVID-19, have the engineers made and structured to put you down at your economy and your freedom of choice, your freedom of consume, your it will set the not capacity empowerment enough at least to have the decision how you will use your money, how you will use your freedom to have choice. And this of course that can happen against an individual, against a citizen, and judge, ministry are all citizens in the same way. This kind of things by variance of scam will impact the system of justice around the globe, considering instead the investment, the interest to occupy a chair or fill a chair, and then it's running by the nepotism or by the privilege as designation that sometimes are not deserved but will happen, and will happen with a condition, which is have a condition argument inside an office or chair that shouldn't have any kind of condition but must run things by autonomy and independence. And this is the kind of and the model of dirty and illicit governance that we have. Of course that OECD will be, you know, with the eyes on it, and sometimes mostly of these reports at critical activity will be, for instance, eye for eye or eye by eye made, because you unfortunately will have this situation, which is the illicit advantage of empowerment on public department and empowering companies, coalition of both having basic sectors of the economy under domain of criminal activity or illicit association. Of course that this kind of model will never support law enforcement activity or international activity around the globe against the crime, against the transnational organized crime. I could leave this, and I have to leave this pass through here in Brazil. And in South America we can have this in other areas for sure. And we had this transference as expectation, which is a compensation, which has the origination as a right protected by the Constitution. Discrete research allowed me to have a lot of information as Preventive control 2021 up to 2028. We will have events on Asia, on Europe, on America. As a conglomerate America, will have transference of research. And then this amount of money, 33 trillion, considering the possibility as financial factoring, indeed will be used maybe as an anti-crime budget, because the law enforcement around the globe, headed by maybe the FBI and the Interpol, and having serious agents on it, won't consider any kind of support of financial stimulus by an environment so hot and so, uh, under corrosive elements associated, that important put this financial system as a sick system, the economy, with a big problems. And then you consider the inflation and all situations observed and complained as a great solution to take advantage or to obtain any kind of advantage. Of course that this is a model that won't be success, because indeed it never had. And we are really expecting the convictions. The convictions as international crime, if it happens in Brazil, not the conviction, but the collective data, we observe the Brazilian law in the very first moment, and having the guarantee, which is a very fitable prison against this kind of criminal activity, which is international. You have international prison, but international prison implies other areas, and the corruption is a basic or universal crime, must have the same conviction in all areas. We had the binomial distribution of values with the taxonomy as a binary code with internal value, to have the validation of the information as asset that you had and have no fail. It means that the decision will be made or have the continuity as the make procedure ongoing, and those international criminals, especially at the international corruption, sometimes acting by local corruption, will be sent for the international prison, which is the natural consequence, and it's a guarantee. We had this observed in Brazil. We are following the law all the time. We will have this situation on a new effort, maybe a new account or something like this, and it will be reported little by little, but maybe not with the same frequency, because indeed it's not necessary anymore. Have a nice day.